Good morning. There we go. Hopefully. Okay, hopefully we're getting sound. Bear with me, friends. Test, check. Okay. Looks pretty good. I'm still getting this worked out here, friends. Good morning and welcome to Wander Radio. We are live lakeside. Let's see how our view is of the lake. Looking great over there. So hopefully you can see and hear. I have wanted to do Wander Radio live, and I have wanted to do it outside. So I am outside here with my microphone and my webcam, and then the cords feed through the window, and the computer and whatnot is inside. It's a strange setup. So kind of working on my cold weather gear, and I want to be able to keep doing this outside. So thank you for joining me, friends, this morning on Wanderer Radio, a radio broadcast by Wanderer for Wanderer, and one that offers the tools of the work of the Wanderer. And today I'm talking about how I experienced a miracle, and I wanted to share with you the story of this miracle and how you can know miracles in your life. That is a wanderer's tool. A wanderer's tool is any understanding that results in the entity being of a greater state of peace, joy, love, harmony, unity, oneness, love. And so I like to share these tools. So the miracle that I experienced, well, let me first say I was all excited. I launched Wanderer Radio. I did my first live broadcast about 2 weeks ago, hoping and ready to kick the whole thing off on a regular basis. And I promptly got a gnarly flu. So you can probably still hear it in my voice, and you can hear it in the congestion. But yeah, I got a gnarly flu. I haven't had one like that in a long time. This was like a real 2-week deal. Whew, Nelson. But I have recently moved. I was in California, and now it's getting close to 3 months I've been living in Michigan. And I think there's probably a lot about acclimating to Michigan that I needed. And so while I was in the height of fever in that experience, I was also I also asked Intelligent Infinity about what influenza is, what it really is, why we experience these influenzas, and what would be the most efficient way for me to treat it from where I was at. And what's interesting was I got a very interesting answer, and with the answer included the logic of how I should approach my own self-care, which I then engaged with, and it worked. So it made me feel like the whole of the logic might be true. It was a an articulation that was new to me. So that's not the pathway I'm going to go down right now. But if anyone's interested, just leave me a comment or whatever. I'll do a broadcast about that influence and download, as they are often referred to, downloads. Anyway, but that's the future there. We're today focusing on a miracle. And I experienced a miracle. And what was this miracle? Well, as I just mentioned, I recently, in the last couple months here, moved to Michigan. And I have two 15-year-old dogs. I have a pug and a Havanese. He looks a lot like a Maltese, if you're not familiar with a Havanese. Well, they're old dogs. They're both losing their sight. They're both losing their hearing. They both sleep a lot. They're both slow, but they have good appetites and they're happy and they enjoy having moved from the city environment we are at to out here. And as you can see, there's kind of like an upper level to this property, and then there's a lower one down there. And this upper one is kind of flat around the house. Well, since we got here almost 3 months ago, we've largely been able to open up our side door here on the house, and the dogs will go out and they'll hang out in this upper grass area. They don't go more than 20, 30 feet from the door of the house. They do their business. And 10, 15 minutes later, maybe 20, depends on their curiosity level and whatnot, they return to the door and they come back inside. And that's how things have gone. Well, the other night, I believe it was probably Tuesday night. Maybe it was Monday night. I let Bailey out, my Havanese. I let him out, as I have for these past months. And anyway, comes the time that I would be expecting him to show back up at the door, and he's not there. And like, usually he's back here by now. He's been wandering around. He should be here. And so he came out for his stroll, but he didn't come back, and he wasn't at the door. So immediately PJ and I went into full-blown seeking mode and scoured the entire interior of the house to see if we didn't, let him in and forget, or, and then I was walking the property. I walked the top of the property. I went down there. There's a deck and a dock, and I was looking around there. Not sure how that old dog did that in his window of time with his limited sight and hearing, but he was not on the property, plain and simple. He was gone from the property, which in my mind meant absolute chaos in the moment, in my moment of fear. And I'll talk about that more, but there were moments of fear, very sustained, long moments of fear. So off of this property, we haven't been here very long. He doesn't know the terrain. He doesn't know the area. He can't really see or hear very well. And it had become dark. It was just after dark. So in the dark of night, it was cold. He was gone. And once I realized that he was not on the property, not anywhere on this property, It was pure, unadulterated, unbridled fear. It just meant absolutely anything. He could be anywhere, and there is not a scintilla of control. These were all the thoughts going through my head. So PJ and I start doing what comes natural to each of us. She posted promptly onto Facebook. She posted a picture of our dog, and this was on the little Community Watch Neighborhood Facebook page. She posts a picture of him, says he got out and we're looking for him and we're really worried. And then she started driving around and driving the neighborhood in her car. I preferred to walk, and I started walking the neighborhood here, and I wasn't really fancying any ideas that I was going to be able to spot him. It was just dark and cold. But I did think that if I kept walking the path, walking this street out here, I do think the sense that he does have that is still strong and good is his sense of smell. So my idea was to just keep beating a path along the road here in the hopes that in his wandering around, he would find that scent and just use it as a pathway and come back. So I walked this road here and I walked the road on the other side. And this walking went on for hours. And it was cold. There were little snow flurries in the air. I found myself incredibly thankful and grateful that there was really no wind. Even a breeze makes a big difference when it's this cold, and wind will cut the amount of time that you have exposure-wise dramatically, and there wasn't any. And I felt like that was a grace, and I was grateful and I was thankful. Now, of course, at 15 years old, with a dog who's slowed down like that, this whole endeavor to find him wasn't about, some 15 years or 20 years that we still have of greater adventure. It wasn't like that. He's living out his golden years. But for me, it was just this idea that after 15 years together and everything he and I had been through together, and with PJ and his adventures, and from California to Michigan and crossing the country at his at his golden year age, this idea that he would pass away due to freezing was just unfathomable to me. I just could not fathom this dog that, not only sweet, innocent, wonderful, glorious, divine God dog, like they all are, but this one also, just his disposition, so sweet and wonderful, and just the kindest, sweetest dog. So of course I'm having these terrible fears that the worst is going to happen, and that I trusted that he wouldn't get lost when I shouldn't. And therefore I would have, of course, had to go through a process of blaming myself and feeling guilty and terrible and all of that. So I'm sure there were very selfish reasons motivating me in terms of what I was looking at emotionally, if this mistake was going to meet with the worst outcome. It's not going to, not to spoil the story, but I don't want people in a sad place. This is a happy, beautiful, glorious story. There came a point in all of this walking, this hours of walking, where I pivoted from the flashlighting and the scanning and the searching and the Bailey bow, all of the physical 3D world manifestations of how to find your lost dog. Somewhere in there, there started to feel a shift within me when I kind of thought, in the chaos and panic and fear of losing track of my dog and being afraid and scared for him, I had instantly reverted fully into my 3D egoic human personhood experience in this dream, which I know to be a dream in my everyday experiences of it. But when something that intense happens, all of a sudden, it don't feel like a dream. It feels really real and really scary and really, wow, look at them. I hope you all can see that. The creator. Creation. God, yeah. Is anybody with me live? Man, shoot, Wanderers unite with me on Wanderer Radio. That just happened live. That happened live. Okay, so we continue. We communicate now. So there was a pivot that was going on. There was a change that was happening within me, and I started to realize how completely beyond my control the situation was in a 3D human calling out into the dark cold with no idea where he was. That seemed so hopeless. So this pivot started to kick in, where I then reconnected with my consciousness and spiritual teachings and started to focus on prayer and meditative resonance and trying to call for help from the spiritual side of things and the spiritual team. Not just call, not just pray, not just ask, but believe that it is heard, believe that it will work. I did not completely successfully allay my fears. I did not get myself fully into a spiritual state during that process, but I did start feeling better. And I certainly felt a connection, like the outcome had suddenly had a much greater chance of being a positive outcome as a consequence of me letting go of the 3D material world ways of solving the problem and engaging with what I have come to believe to be true to a greater and greater degree over time. So you could say this was a moment where the rubber meets the road. This is what all of the texts talk about in reference to the term and the idea of catalyst. This is catalyst and opportunity for growth and intense experience and how we handle it and what we've learned and what we do. So in the moment, scared in the dark and absolutely in abject panic, worried about my dog, it's an opportunity to take in the catalyst, engage with the spiritual, metaphysical, the consciousness aspects of things, the prayer, the meditation, the call and the belief that the call can be heard and is heard. Are they flying by again? I hear him, but I don't see him. So after quite a bit of time of this, I am walking my however manyth time walking down my road out here. I'm walking back toward the house, and there's a car coming up behind me, and the road is kind of narrow. So I stepped over on the side of the road to let the car pass. And as it's rolling up, the driver's side window rolls down, and this woman leans out the window to me, and she says, "Are you by any chance looking for a little dog?" And at that point, I could see past her into the passenger seat, and I could see her daughter sitting there, and there was Bailey wrapped in a towel on her daughter's lap. And I said, "Oh my God, I am." And her daughter got out of the car and brought me Bailey, and I was holding Bailey, and I was so overwhelmed with the most profound gratitude. Oh my God, from head to toe resonating. I must have been luminous in the darkness with the resonance of gratitude. That moment. He was soaking wet and covered in burrs, but he was safe. He was back. And so apparently in my panic and in PJ's panic, we hadn't noticed what was going on the Facebook thread, but people in the community had seen it. In this family that lives a few houses down. You can walk there, but you can't drive there. You got to take another road. That's why she was in her car. But she's just down the road here. And they had seen the post, and they heard a noise outside their house and looked out the window and saw Bailey doing something. So while I'm out there thanking them from the core of my being for finding him and returning him, PJ was inside the house and noticing on Facebook that there was a picture that they had posted where they had collected Bailey, and we said, "We think we found him. We're bringing him over." So PJ comes running out of the house to find me, to tell me the good news. She knows I wouldn't have seen it on Facebook. So she's like coming out to tell me they found him. They're bringing him over. But of course, I'm standing there. They had found me walking on the road. And so we were all united with Bailey. And after just a couple minutes of being out there with thanks and love and all of that, we had to, of course, quickly get Bailey inside and into a warm shower. And so it's been a few more of those for him, and a lot of picking burrs out of his fur. But he is warm and safe and happy and healthy at home. And I am acutely, vividly, viscerally aware of the pain of Catalyst so narrowly averted. Such a simple mistake and silly lapse of judgment could result in painful Catalyst. Now, I think this is a very good place to point out an extremely important, this might be the most important thing I say on today's broadcast, but what I do want to mention is this. Had it been the other outcome, had it been the worst, if it had been cosmically necessary for me to experience that loss in that way, it would not have been punishment. It would not have been correct for me to feel guilty about it. It wouldn't have felt correct for me to hate myself over it. This is a dream that as we process pain and difficulty and trauma, and as we grow and as we evolve and as we learn, sometimes the dream has moments of nightmare. But also in the nightmare is learning. And it is exactly that learning that brings about the end of all nightmares for all time. What we come to know as heaven. That paradise state of knowing with a visceral connection to our eternal and infinite self. An awareness that what we experience is a dream that has become a lucid dream. So the dream becomes a lucid dream. And that's what they're all doing out there in the cosmos. That's the difference between them and us. They're out there flying all through space and having all these adventures while we seem to be kind of quarantined here. One way to articulate that distinction is that they are all lucid dreamers. We are dreamers unaware. And dreamers unaware, nonetheless, have infinite creative power. So, the dreamers unaware can be like monkeys with rifles in certain circumstances, and thus there is quarantine. Keeps us safe, keeps them safe. Nothing is meant, no harm, no foul. But anyway, that was a little wanderer radio, true to form, live lakeside. I do like to wander. And the reality is, while I'm wandering, let me take another wander, because I want to talk for a moment about the manner by which I'm sharing here and how that sharing can be received and how you can look at it. Because I do branch, the pathway branches, and I wander on the branch and I wander on another branch. And as this goes on, it's going to wander more and more and more. It's going to wander and wander and wander and wander. Wandering the plains of mind. It's going to be awesome. It's been a challenge to me when I've launched these, the last iteration of this and now Wanderer Radio. Starting to get a little cold, so I'm going to bring this home. But as I have done this, it's hard to prioritize. Like, what's the order? How do you organize this? Where do you start? Well, some years ago, I trained in jiu-jitsu and I got a blue belt. And when I started jiu-jitsu, I was quite surprised to learn that starting doesn't start on a schedule. The beginner classes are just always going on. And I had taken other martial arts when I was younger, and you started at a specific moment and they taught you specific techniques in a specific order. Well, jiu-jitsu didn't work that way, at least not at this school. The intermediate class is always going on, kind of like a Nickelodeon. You come in whenever you want, you exit whenever you want, you come back in when you want and out when you want, and it doesn't matter. It's just always endlessly going, and they're teaching the techniques. The other thing I learned is that there are not black belt techniques in jiu-jitsu. There are not black belt techniques and white belt techniques. There is no levels to the techniques. You don't learn things in levels that way. What will happen, or at least what was happening at my school, was from day one, a black belt is teaching you how to do black belt jiu-jitsu. When the black belt teaches you the arm bar, they're saying all these things like, whoa, I get the arm between my legs and then I'm pinching on their tricep. My heel is in their shoulder. I turn their thumb toward the ceiling. You see, I leverage their elbow back. Is the beginner catching all of these details? No. What you're going to get that first time around is try to get their arm between your legs and pull back like this. So Some weeks later, the Nickelodeon swings back around in its armbar lessons again, but this time you're more familiar with it. You know the whole get the thing here and the pull like that. So what's happening now? Now you notice some different details that he definitely said or she the first time. But you weren't ready for those. But now that you got the earlier details down, now all of a sudden you're geeking out on these other details that you're seeing in this thing. And this keeps going and going and going until many years later, you arrive at black belt status and you realize that that teacher was teaching you the black belt way to do it from the first day you were there. But the minutia and the details and the wanderings, it's an endless, infinite path. So I wander in my sharings, that whatever I share might overlap in the wandering of your own exploration. So let me get back to the story of Bailey and this miracle. How do you experience miracles and know miracles in your life? Well, the broad point is that there are two ways, broadly speaking. Well, there's really, let's talk for a moment. There's three ways, broadly speaking, to interpret what happened there. One, this is a random universe based on random math and randomly colliding atoms. And just like a 50-50 flip of the coin, the random calamity, chaos of colliding catastrophes going on and on. All of that chaos led to a flip of the coin that landed in my favor. That's one way to see it. Another way to see it is that this cold, unfeeling universe is actually against us and against odds, designed to keep us down, designed to keep us miserable, designed to keep us in pain. Against those odds, the roll of the dice turned up in my favor and Bailey was returned. That would be a second way to see it. First one, mathematically even chaotic universe. Second one, universe is against us. Here's the third one. The universe is working with us. The Creator is with us. The will of the Father, or what we call God, the Creator, however you look at it, however we try to understand it, and it's infinitely unfathomable. Nature. To understand the mechanics of it isn't the point. What hinges on whether or not it is a miracle or not a miracle is down to your perception and your perception alone. It is a matter of your free will, your open mind and your open heart. And to be able to look at a situation like that and say, no, it was not a cold random universe and flip of the coin that I won. And no, this isn't a universe that's against me and I beat the odds and I was reunited with my dog. And no, this happened because the Creator loves me, because God is here with us, among us, is everything, is the only one here. There is one mind, one infinite, unified mind, distorted and divided for the purposes of illusion, learning, and love, and all that we know here. And the difference between seeing that and not seeing that is the difference between dreaming unaware and being lucid in the dream. It is through lucidity to look at that and say, miracle. And to wander a little tangent here, because I'm still not so cold that I have to go in here, but to wander on yet another tangent, let's do it. Let's do it. A Course in Miracles. A Course in Miracles tells us there's one miracle. And the teacher tells us it doesn't matter if you turn water into wine, or you walk on water, or you cure lepers, or you come back from the dead. It doesn't matter. All of the miracles are the same. Every miracle is the same miracle. And what is that miracle, according to the teacher? To say this is a dream, and you are dreaming. And in the dream, you co-create. You're part of a co-created belief system, and you believe that you cannot walk on water, and you believe that if you try, you will sink. So convinced you are of that, that is exactly what happens. But what if it's only because you believe it? What if the dream can be anything when the dreamer knows it's a dream? Would seem to me a dreamer acutely aware of walking around in a dream might be able to walk on water where others can't. Why stop there? The dream isn't limited to these rules or these limitations. Why not make limitless fish? Why not make limitless loaves of bread? Heal the sick. If you still can't see what is being said, fine, says the lucid dreamer, I will come back from the dead. Because dying isn't real. Dying is in the dream. In any moment where it strikes us that a sequence of events did not happen because of random or negatively generated math, but happened instead because God is good, and the Creator is good, and the creation is good, and the Father's will and the Son's will are one, in the love and in the light of the infinite Creator. We can look upon a series of circumstances and say that happened because of the unity of the mind and the relationship between the dreamer unaware, and the lucid dream. Miraculous miracle. This, of course, is the nature and intention behind what people say when they say, I was blind and now I see. Of course, it isn't literal blindness and a sudden acquisition of vision or eyesight. What is it? What is it that we are blind to? That my dog is returned to me through luck by way of random math. Blind. That this universe is against me, wants to hurt me, wanted the negative outcome, and we got the positive one in spite of it. Blind. That it happened because God is good. The Creator is good. The Creator is love. The creation is love. And love would have ultimately been behind the negative outcome too. And love would have been the journey. Love, forgiveness, not punishment, not punitive, not intended agony or willful torture or hell or anything like that. That pathway would have had another meaning. But such is the dance, a dance of love between Creator and creation. All I knew was to ask for the miracle that I so wanted in those desperate moments. And And when you ask for something that is a miracle and believe that to receive it could not be anything but, then when you do receive it, I think it's an incredible opportunity to look it straight in the eyes. Look your Creator right in the eyes. You shall see the face of God and live. So goes the hymn. Where do you see this face of God? Is it an old man with a long beard and long hair floating in the clouds? Is that how we see the face of God? Or despite all odds, does somebody return your dog? Soaking wet, heading into a freezing night with no skills, not an outdoor dog, can't really see, can't really hear. And as that van pulls up behind me and I step aside to let it go by and the window rolls down, are you by any chance looking for a little dog? There! That's it. Who am I looking at? Who am I looking at driving that van? That's how you see the face of God and live. There she was, sitting in the passenger seat too, don't you know? Saw God in two faces. I'm about to sign off here, but here's one more big one. If you've listened to all of this and that which I am sharing is of resonance with you, then you'll notice something incredibly important. The miracles of lore are rendered for us in a way that is incontrovertible. In other words, a luminous entity descended from the heavens to speak to the people below. To see something like that would undoubtedly be, unless it was people were going to make hallucination and mass hallucination cases for whatever was observed. The bottom line is something so reality breaking like that doesn't ask a whole lot of you in terms of your discernment and your free will regarding what is or is not a miracle. And so there isn't going to be a person standing on that grassy prairie watching this being descend, a luminous being come down in light, and nobody's going to be there and say that that's somehow part of our reality. You would have a universal agreement that there was a reality breaking event, and how do we explain what happened there? And everybody walks away. And so you got your materialists who are going to say mass hallucination or whatnot, and then you'll have other people saying, no, I know what I saw. We saw a miracle. We observed a miracle. So there's a discernment there. But even for the skeptic, even for the huge skeptic who immediately said mass hallucination and walked away, that person has still been offered an incredible gift because it's real hard to write off what they saw. They might say they did it with the snap of a fingers. Oh, mass hallucination. That's what happened. That's why we saw that entity come down here. And they think that they just sold themselves that bill of goods, but they didn't. The experience of that moment went into their minds, connected them to the infinity of all that is, and a knowingness that something like that cannot happen in the reality as it's been sold, but it could under some other understanding of what our reality is. And that is ultimately what the person is afraid of, and why they wouldn't accept what they saw as a miracle. And of course, I was referencing A Course in Miracles earlier. If we take the articulation of that teacher, the reason that the entity descended from the sky and everybody saw this was because for a moment, there was a brief opportunity for a glimpse, perhaps, through our distorted, dark, heavy, clouded, limited views of our world. The truth will still nonetheless, nothing, nobody's reality, nobody's belief system is impervious to the truth. The truth. It's like in Jurassic Park, life finds a way. I think in terms of cosmic order, it could be said to be a law. Truth finds a way. Truth will always find permeable holes within any lie. And so when the entity descends down, it's just one of many crazy, wild, weird things people claim to experience, from Nessie to Bigfoot to ETs to spirits to everything else. It's all the same thing. Infinity and eternity is true. In this realm, we don't believe that. And so because truth finds a way, eternity and infinity will keep bubbling up, popping up, slipping, sneaking, and sliding through our realm all the time. Perhaps not to be witnessed by us all in mass together, but as individuals, one at a time, we see these things and it changes us. For the better. We evolve toward infinity and eternity. This is all in cosmic and divine natural order. It's all good. But my point in that whole wandering is to just demonstrate that even in the most visceral, could not be handed to you on a grander silver platter, nonetheless, people will find a way to write off a miracle handed to them, like literally luminously descending from the sky before them, to say, here's a miracle. The teacher in A Course in Miracles also, of course, tells us that all miracles are a gift of time. And so what that means is a miracle is always meant, it is always a reality shattering event or sequence. It is always something that challenges our reality. Why? Because the longer we believe and remain in the belief system of this reality, the more present moment now, aka time, we spend here. In A Course in Miracles, the teacher is not a fan of us spending any more time here than is necessary, because the teacher says effectively that here sucks, and we will understand that better when we're not here. Sometimes we're confused while we're here into not understanding quite how much this sucks, but that's why we have teachers reaching out to us from beyond the realm. How can a teacher reach out to us beyond the realm? Because no belief system and no realm built out of any belief system is impervious to the truth. Truth finds way, and it will penetrate, and it will find its way into our reality, and we will be allowed to know it. I don't know if you can see the family of ducks swimming along down there. But anyway, I continue wandering, but not with a complete abandonment of my compass, for I remember how I got onto the path I'm currently on, and that was a discussion to say that even in this incredible scenario where one might write the whole thing off as a group hallucination or something like that. Of course, we have no science for group hallucination anyway. So it's like as if that's science, right? So that makes it science. Oh, hallucinations exist. Groups exist. Therefore, I'll just contrive this thing in my mind. Group hallucination exists. Science. Oh, wow. There's so many ducks down there. Can you see it? Can you see that? So I'm going to make sure I can't tell. I have to look through the window in order to see the teeth. Come on. But anyway, I'll lift it up in a moment here because I'm about to wrap out. But at any rate, the point is, if you can use your free will at that level, then perhaps your free will can be engaged at other levels as well. And just as I articulated earlier in the case with my dog, I could have seen it as random math. I could have seen it as winning against odds, or I could have seen it as winning, so to speak, in the sense of engaging with the non-physical, the spiritual support, my creator, praying, meditating, believing that was critical. That is an absolutely fundamentally abjectly different understanding of our entire reality compared to the other two. That it's random or that it's against you. That it's for you and with you is big. God, it's so big. And that's what we're learning. I think you guys got to be able to see those ducks going by there. You know, it's like, this is live. We're live here on Wonder Radio. I see somebody commented on there. I'm sorry that I don't yet have the setup to engage with the comment. Maybe I'll go in there and check. So if you're there watching and you commented on there, I'm going to go in there in a minute. Let me just wrap up this free will concept. So the bottom line is I had those three options. I can choose. It is my free will. And that's what I'm sharing with you in this tool. I am consciously, willfully choosing with my free will to embrace the reality that Bailey was returned because this universe and this reality and this creation and our creator and this experience is for us. It is the wind in our sails, at our backs, propelling us forward. My will and my Father's will are one, using the terms of A Course in Miracles. When we realize that things happen in ways that are a consequence of our relationship with our creator and the creation. And as we are going from dreamers unaware to lucid dreamers, that's the miracle. That is the one miracle that all of the other miracles are trying to show us. And so through my free will, I discern that my dog was returned to me because it is a good creation. It is a good creator, and that my Father's will and my will can be one. God, there's a whole nother, is this the same one or is this a new? There's a whole nother mass exodus of ducks going on here. Oh, I love it. Okay, good. Well, listen, if my friends, if you are finding this after the fact and not the live stream, but you're coming to it later, we'll see these ducks. They're kind of going by here like this is why we're live here on the lake. Anyway, I don't know. Maybe I geek out on this stuff. Other people don't, but I wanted to share it. That's why I do it. So I'm sitting out here in the cold like this to be live with the ducks going by. Yet again, another miracle. And so just to return to this point, that it is a miracle of the nature I've just described is down to my discernment and my discernment alone. Nobody can get inside the nexus of space-time. my unique nexus of truth and what I discern as truth and not truth. If I say that my dog was returned because that was a miracle, and with the understanding of miracle that I've given, then that is true. That is the reality that I live in, and ain't not nobody, nonewhere can make it no different. And that's the same for you too. That's why you can experience a miracle through my articulation. Maybe that reaches you through the articulation as laid out in A Course in Miracles. How can I take A Course in Miracles and then miracles are real in my life? Well, I'm sitting here as evidence and articulating the evidence. How? The Course doesn't give you the key exactly. It kind of shows you how to find your own key in your own door, because it can only happen at your nexus, at your place and time, your belief system. You are the gatekeeper. You watch the door there and you say what is true and not true gets in on your watch. Only you can make that discernment. So it is only you ultimately who can someday decide. It's not a universe of chaotic math, and it's not a universe that's against me. I discern that it is a creator and a creation that is with me, for me, good, love, peace, joy, harmony, unity. That is what's real, and that is all that's real. And when we discern that as a truth for ourselves, we feel the miracle. It isn't a knowledge thing. It's not a head thing. It's not about the thinking and how we think about it. That's part of the pathway, and that's part of what I've been sharing today. But what it ultimately is, it's ultimately about, is what it feels like. What it feels like to live in a creation created by a creator who is also you. And all in its unity, and all in its divine order and love, peace, and all of that. Anyway, that's me on miracles today. And thank you for watching Wanderer Radio, joining me today on Wanderer Radio. What I'm going to do now, I'm going to go inside. I'm going to see what this comment is. And perhaps if the person's still here, I'll come back and respond. But otherwise, I'll perhaps continue with it tomorrow or the next time I'm able to go live on Wanderer Radio, Lakeside, in the love and light of the infinite creator. Thank you, friends. Thank you, Cat Captain. I saw your question or your comment about creation. It's a big comment with a lot to unpack there and a lot to comment on. So I'm too cold to get through that right now, but I will address it in my next broadcast. And thank you for joining me live and engaging with Wanderer Radio. This is Oz, signing off.